Hey guys, so here I am on take 3. So I did actually check the sound obsessively, and I'm going to check all this again before I release it. I actually did have about 5 to 7 minutes recorded, and then my kids started going off, and I'm like, oh, this is of course after I told them that I was going to be doing this. They're kids, what can I say? So I had to shut everything down, go and tell them, oh hey, you know the thing that I said I was doing? Well, it doesn't help when you're, imitating a banshee in the background. It doesn't assist me in any way. But here I am. Hopefully this one will go a little bit better than the last one with the no sound. And is everything working? Did. Apologies for that. I could swear to God that is the second time in the last 5 or 6 years that I've done that, where I've just released a vid, didn't check it, and the sound was not in there. Or the picture was not in there. I can't remember which one it was, but it was something was definitely missing and everybody was going, yeah. So, even though I know the sound is working and I can see that there is picture, I'm going to have to check it anyway when I go to release this. First things first, Miss M, we did receive your card with the ornaments against the black background. That is absolutely beautiful. I love the hearts and things like that sprinkled on the inside, as well as the message. Thank you ever so much. But yes, I did want to let you know that I did receive that. As you guys know, I'm trying to catch up. I had a list like this, and I've managed to get it whittled down. I should have probably been a little bit more diligent and on top of it, but it's like, oh, after a while you've read so much, it's like, okay, I don't want everybody to be blurring together, and I want to be able to absorb what it is I'm reading. So anybody who has received a PM, I've caught up with you. I've rolled both Dreamwidth and Livejournal back to the 30th of December, so that I can try to catch anything after that point that I may have missed. But other than that, if when I go to do my post saying I am caught up, if you did not receive a PM from me, that means that most likely I thought that I actually read everything of yours and left you a PM, but for some reason I did not. So definitely let me know with that post or via PM, oh hey, did you miss me? And I'll happily catch up. It is actually a quirk of mine. Remember about 2 or 3 years ago when I was in Utah, I fell out of touch for about a year or so. And that's exactly what I did then. I went through and caught up on everybody's posts, read absolutely everything I could, crammed as much information as I could, just because I wanted to know what was going on, what I missed. And this year, I already know I missed a lot. A lot. I mean, I had missed some stuff the last time this happened, but I missed a lot this time around. I didn't leave a whole lot of PMs at that time to let people know that I was doing it, so I was like, okay, this time around, I'm at least going to let people know that I've stopped and read their journal so they don't feel left out. There's only one person I'm not going to be able to do that with. Dave, unfortunately, that is you. And that is just because I tried to roll past 500, 600, 700, and Livejournal got upset. DW wouldn't let me get past 350, I think. I'm not really sure if it's because my accounts are basic, they're free accounts, if it's my computer, if it's my internet, but I tried to go back so far and eventually posts started going missing. So I was like, if it would let me go back any further at all. I think it was Livejournal, it stopped at a certain amount and just kept blinking and putting me right back at the same page, because it was like, I'm not going back any further than this. So, apologies. So, of course, since I have not been keeping up the way I'm supposed to, and I had copious amounts of free time to do so, that is completely my fault. I mean, I know I had a lot going on the last year my own self, but that was no excuse to not be caught up. So, here it is after not catching up with you, Dave. I'm going to ask you to do some homework. Let me know anything major that I missed, honey. anything that's going on with Phil, anything that's going on with your little circle. I definitely know that any work that you were doing, if it wasn't halted altogether due to the pandemic, then it was severely constrained. Because I know a lot of your work involves you going to shops and rating and taking pictures and things like that. So I already know in the UK things were crazier, almost crazier than they are here. So I know that you were severely affected. So I know that you made it out okay. I've seen you pop up on my posts, so I know you made it out the other side. But I definitely want to hear from you and find out anything it is I'm missing, because it seems that Dreamwidth and Livejournal are not going to allow me to check that out for myself. So I do apologize for that. Let me go ahead and hopefully I won't forget anything that I put in the silent post, which is completely funny in a non-funny way. So as you probably have gleaned, my landlady sent me a text. I think it was last Tuesday, going, okay, so you're behind. You also know that I a week and a half before that, it was like, oh gosh, in December, at least I think it was December, it was the very, very beginning of January, I had set up a communication for rental assistance, and that whole entire day went for shit. Just no other way to put it. So I'm there at 10 o'clock in the morning waiting for them to call me. I have no idea why they weren't doing Zoom, why they weren't doing any of that. It was to be a phone call. Well, at 10:05 I still hadn't heard anything. And I'm like, what is going on? I mean, I get these people are not in the office, and that can make things infinitely harder. But at the same time, I mean, if I'm not there for that appointment at exactly 10 o'clock, come on now. So around 10:06, I see a voicemail pop up. So, I mean, my phone didn't even ring. I have no idea why. Hubby and I were having problems for a couple of days, due to our phones. And I'm like, well, of course, great, perfect. And since then, we haven't really had any major issues. So that tells you everything you need to know there. But, I mean, it didn't come through. It went to voicemail. I heard like the first, 2 or 3 sentences out of her mouth, stopped the voicemail. I'm like, okay, I'm going to call her back. Called her back, answering machine. Left a message letting her know. I went ahead and I set aside specific time on this day to speak with you. I have no idea when my phone went to voicemail, but go ahead and call me back as soon as you can. Nothing. 4 or 5 minutes after that, I rang her again. Nothing. So I'm like, okay. I went ahead and listened to the rest of the voicemail just in case she was going to tell me there was another date, something like that I needed to reset this for. And she was like, right now we're giving rental assistance to people who have substance abuse issues or people who have behavioral or mental disorders. And I'm like, wow. So I went ahead and left her a voicemail going, it's me again. Neither of these things applies to me. Please call me back as soon as you can. Now, what's so funny about the voicemail is, I'm probably with a client or blah, 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 assisting somebody else. And I'm going, lady, we literally slotted aside this time just specifically for you to speak with me. So I don't know who you'd have an appointment with or who you'd be talking with at this time. But usually whenever I make an appointment, I literally set aside that time for whoever it is I'm talking to. And I don't just call them once and go, never mind. But that's okay. She eventually called me back at like 10:33. And was like, oh yeah, that's all they set all this aside for. I'm like, okay. So let's see if I've got this correct. So here it is, Wednesday. And the Tuesday before yesterday, I made this appointment to sit down and talk with you about getting rental assistance And I could have been talking with some other, because I did. I had a place that called me. It's like, oh yeah, you're looking for rental assistance. Completely different set of people. Completely different type of assistance. And they'd called me like literally the day before going, you still looking for assistance? Oh no, I've got an appointment with somebody. They're like, oh, okay. Needless to say, after this phone call, I gave him a call back. I still haven't heard back from him, but I gave him a call back. And she was like, yeah, that's all we've got set aside, is people who have substance abuse problems and mental issues. And I'm like, why couldn't they have said that when I made this appointment last week? Because then, yes, I could have actually not made an appointment with you. Not wasted your time, this is what I don't get. All the time that is wasted for her and for whoever it is she's dealing with. Because I guarantee you, half the people who are calling do not have these issues, are not at all aware that they have to have these issues before calling. She even said as much. She was like, oh yeah, I've had a couple of conversations with people and told them to call back within the next week, month, 2 months, 3 months, to see when we can get that kind of assistance in. And I'm like, okay, your people didn't even notify me this is a thing before. You said they didn't even know. So how are they going to know? And I'd have to wait another week to get told to no again? It's a wee bit of a problem with that. No idea what the hell's going on with that. That was crazy. And I told her, I'm like, so if they don't know when I make the appointment, how are they going to know the next time I go to make an appointment, only to be told maybe there is assistance, or maybe there isn't assistance, or maybe the other 20 people ahead of me got the assistance could be offered, sorry, try again next month. And she was like, well, they weren't informed, they didn't really have an idea, this is left to the caseworker. And I'm like, okay, thanks. So I had to call my landlady. So that stimulus check we got? Yeah. That stimulus check, aside from about 300, 400 of it, went straight to the landlady. So I called her to let her know what was going on, and she was like, yeah, I kind of figured some of that. Now this is what kills me. My landlady likes to text. I always try to take anything that is written with a grain of salt, but she always sounds aggressive, hostile, and dismissive in texts. I have absolutely no idea why she likes to text. It always comes across poorly. Now this is a lady who's nice. She's not mean. She doesn't mean to be dismissive, but she doesn't really get it. Now she's told me, oh, I've been homeless before, but she wasn't really. She was homeless for all of about 2 weeks, and she crashed on a friend's couch. It's not exactly the same. So she tries to understand, but she is middle class. She has never gone without. She has never done without. So she doesn't really get it. Now, Digital had to help me when I first came here, try to help me find the resources to get what we needed to be able to survive even when we were inside the car. Because I'm terrible about looking those things up. But I'm aware of them. And once I actually do find the places, I pretty much know the hoops I have to jump through or not have to jump through to be able to get what I need for my family. I also know I have to swallow pride, suck it up, buttercup, do whatever it is I have to do to help my little family. So we don't fuck around. We don't fudge anything. We don't do anything like that. So when she was like, well, you all could have gotten food stamps. Could have gotten them at the beginning of the year. They were giving you more then. I said, well, we had food stamps at the beginning of 2019. Oh. I said, but when he had a job, I had a job, those ran out. And if you make over a certain amount, and she was like, oh. I'm like, I probably could have reapplied for them, but I had a job. And she was like, well, yeah, but I'm sure like now I'm like, now I'm looking for a job. I said, and I can't risk that by the time I get them, they'll have to be shut off again. I want a job. I don't want food stamps. And I told her, quite frankly, at this time, I'm looking for anything that will actually just cover the rent. Hubby's check covers everything else. I'm just looking for something that'll just cover the rent. So in the end, she was actually quite helpful. She named a couple of places. I went ahead and threw my hat in the ring there. Went back to job searching on Indeed. And wrote out the check for $2,000 for her, which drops our bill back down to $4,500. Now, what's so hilarious is the fact that she had about $1,000 over. You know, oh, well, you owe us about $1,000 more. I sat right there and did the calculations with her, and I'm like, no. Because we had paid in full in August. We only paid $1,000 in September, so we still owed $500. So I literally took care of the rest of September and October, which means we have November, December, January. $4,500. Told her, talk to me again the next couple of weeks. See what I can have for her then. We also were discussing jobs, which was kind of funny because I told her I was trying for banks. Even put in something with, you know, dispatch for the police. She's like, well, the police are really, really strict about time. And I'm like, oh, I usually show up to things about 15 minutes early. She's like, I kind of did that, but it turned out they had taken everybody back already. And I'm like, oh, okay, so be there half an hour early. All right. I can get behind that. I get it. She's like, it didn't work out too well for her when she tried, but, you know, in the end, that was okay. She had something else she wanted to do anyway. And she was like, I just don't think you'd fit well with banking. And I'm like, well, what makes you say that? She was like, oh, they're all just so stiff and fake. She's like, I don't see how you do well there. I worked hotels for 14 years. Most hotel people are exactly that. Most auditors are either bean counters or they're good with people. They're not good with both. So I just kind of laughed a bit when she was like, well, what makes you think you'd fit that field? I'm like, well, I like money. I like numbers. And I like people. I just find it hilarious that my landlady's like, no, it doesn't fit your personality at all. I can make most things fit my personality, but that's okay. Like I said, she's not a mean lady. She always has suggestions for like government help, this, that, and the other that we could get. But it's just, it's not what she says, how she says it, I guess is the best way to put it. It's not her fault. It really isn't. Like I said, she's middle class. She's always been middle class. She's never really had to want for anything. If she has, it was for a very, very short period of time. And it was easily remedied within a very short period of time. And I can say that just from the stuff we found when we first moved in, because they had moved everything out. So I could say that just based on what we found here that was left over, that they hadn't, you know, moved out yet. So, I mean, maybe I don't understand her too well. She doesn't understand me too well. But we do our level best. And I told her, I'm like, yeah, I'd love more than anything to get caught up. I didn't tell her this area is dying. My husband even said it. The hospital he's working at right now is shutting down. And he's working with a temp agency, so very likely he's not going to be moved to the next one. And all of them are union. And as much as I love union, it does have its downsides, especially when it comes to the old school and the good old boy network sometimes. So, Caviar, you probably know all about that, so I don't have to explain it to people like you. But yeah, I had a talk with my landlady. Did some more job searching, wrote out the check. She said she'd be by after work. So, funnily enough, I hung up with her, and like literally 15 minutes later, got a call back from Alaska Credit Union. They were like, we know it's been a couple of weeks since you put this in, but we figured we'd call you back. They're calling everybody though, so I'm not hanging my hat on that. But it was the very fact that, you know, she doesn't consider me good for banking because I have, I guess, too much personality for it, and 911 can be stressful, which I already know. I need to like get a good rein in on what I think and what I feel when I work for something like that, and not let it make me cynical. But my family's pretty good about keeping me grounded. So I'm pretty sure I won't have too much of an issue with that. But yeah, it was just kind of funny. They were like, we're interviewing everybody. But considering banking, I think half the reason why I want to get in banking is because it's so hard to get into it. That and any type of medical industry, anything. Even being a receptionist. All of them list must have experience. Like, well, how can you get experience if you can't get experience? That makes absolutely no sense. I mean, honestly, that makes no sense. But it was made even funnier that half an hour after that, I start receiving messages from the 911 trainee thing, asking me to, you know, you pass this criteria, go ahead and fill out this paperwork, yada, yada, yada. Filled it out, sent it in. It's like, do you need me to send this in any other format? And they're like, no, we got it, we'll let you know. So bang, there you go. There's that. The two things I was talking with her about, and both of them called immediately afterwards. So she came and she got the check. For some reason, it still hasn't processed. I have no idea why, but I'm waiting for it. We're going to hopefully sort of survive to the end of the month. Of course, by that time, it'll be right back up to 6,000 again, because, you know, February 1st will roll around. So that's adorable. But just keep your fingers crossed for me on the job front. I keep laying it out there. I'm just hoping that somebody will pick it up, because that would be nice. Other than that, things are going good. I've had to lecture the kiddos a couple of times about grades. Hubby's kind of getting on me a little bit about writing, because he was like, come on now. I'm like, but whenever I write, you're mad, because, I mean, that's literally what I'm focused on. And he was like, no. He was like, just go ahead and start writing. He kicked around a couple of ideas with me, and quite frankly, they're freaking awesome. We even revamped a character that I created when I was 13 years old. And the circumstances I created for when I was 13 years old, now that I think about it, I was like, damn, I did that when I was 13. And we've just kind of expanded on it. So I now have 3 books that I can write. Thanks, hubby. That he really wants me to get cracking on. He was like, well, you just can just give those ideas out if that's what you want to do. I'm like, you do not understand how writers work, okay? When all of us get together and we're like, we're sharing, we'll toss ideas out there, ideas that we never intend to actually use at all. You and I are discussing ideas, and I'm giving feedback and filling in blanks, which means I intend to use it. There's no way in hell you give that up. No. No, no, no. No, no, no. Well, I'm not a writer. Okay, dear. I've still determined that if I actually write any of these things, his name's going on there somewhere. I mean, when you cough up the idea and all I'm doing is just filling in the blanks, I mean, technically, you collaborated. So there you go. I was catching up with Doctor Who. I was on the 2nd season of 13's run. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to, like, the latter half of it. Just because we get a green screen and we could hear what was going on, but it wouldn't play. I have no idea what happened there. Rivers of London series. I so badly want to get caught up with that. The bad thing about libraries, at least the ones that are here where we're located, is you'll get book 2 or book 7 of something, if you're lucky to see it at all, but you won't get the whole entire series. What I loved about Tacoma, and these are people that I still have 2 books sitting in my car. We tried to deliver to Tacoma Library on a Saturday, a Tuesday, and a Thursday, and each time their drop box was locked. I already know I'm paying for these books. I already know they had to reorder these books, and I'm paying for these books. And both of them suck. That's what makes it even worse. But we just can't risk running down there right now. We just can't. not with our tags, and not with the tires, and not with the fact she's going to need brakes soon. So if there is another stimulus check, car's getting taken care of, and anything that's left over from that they can have. But I know, I digress. Anyway, Tacoma Library at least would get volumes 1 through 6 of something. If you were lucky enough to find it, 1 through 6, and then you can get a hold of it. With the library here, it's like, first of all, finding whatever it is a miracle. It truly is. Finding it first is a miracle. Because I'm getting a lot of my books via Kindle. Finding it's a miracle. Finding it in the correct order is a miracle. Name the issue. So, yeah. The library's been hit and miss here. I can't find Rivers of London at all. I mean, it just doesn't exist here. So I'm going to have to find some way to catch up with that. I have to catch up with Good Omens, which I think I've already mentioned to somebody. Yes, Miss E. I mentioned it to you. So I don't know anything about it. I see also all sorts of awesome things, but I don't know anything about it. Let's see, I got spoiled for the season end of Supernatural. And when hubby and I were discussing, when we were discussing fiction, he and I got in a mild, I wouldn't call it existential, it was a hypothetical type of argument. And I'm like, you know what, I have people going back and reading my stuff, like all my old stuff. Like, you know, sometimes it'll be just all AO3. Other times it's all fanfiction.net. I have no idea why these people are still reading my stuff. You know, why I get it from one site and then another, or alternating. I'm like, it's never, you know, it'll be big stretches of crickets, and then all of a sudden just people just spam the hell out of me with likes and this, that, and the other. Nope, hardly anybody ever comments anymore. I'm like, but on FF or at AO3, never at the same time. So he was like, well, what about the Dresden Supernatural Lucifer? And I'm like, meh. And he was like, okay. He was like, you don't understand why you're popular. I'm like, well, I don't write a whole lot anymore. He's like, if you want to know if you still got it, go ahead and post that. And I'm like, do you know how many dangling fictions I have out there? Do you know how many people want to kill me at AO3 and at FF.net? I mean, seriously, I have so many fictions out there to be continued and never have been, or scream for a sequel. I have a Doctor Who Supernatural crossover, Book 3. Book 1 and 2 were never written. And that's because, technically, they happened, but they haven't happened yet. Welcome to Book 3. That's Doctor Who for you. So, well, and a touch of Supernatural. I mean, come on now. So he wants me to put that out on AO3 and FF.net to prove a point. Because me not sharing is unfair or something. I don't know, he's a weirdo. So he also wants me to do podcasts. Quite frankly, you know what? When they finally stretch the day to about 28 to 32 hours, I'm pretty sure they're, you know, well, somebody'd find something else for me to do, especially if I was, you know, working at the time. But there needs to be more hours in the day to do everything that he and my kids are absolutely determined I need to do. My eldest has decided that I am too down on me, and he agrees with Dad, and I need to stop doing that. But as far as I'm concerned, nobody asked him. Also, he needs to stop smiling. He's 14 years old. It's creepy. No, he does. He smiles and he laughs all the time. Quite frankly, that's unnatural. 14-year-olds are supposed to be surly, mean-tempered, stubborn. Well, he's got those two. And just all around hard to deal with the whole, oh, I hate you guys, why do you even exist? Which we're fully prepared for. I mean, we love the whole, I hate you guys, why do you even exist? That makes our life. But I digress. So, I have everybody pushing me to be more artistic. I am pushing the universe to help me win the lottery. Working on finding a job, having to cough up money that we planned to put towards the car to the landlady so we didn't get tossed out on our asses. Said landlady made suggestions about getting food stamps, which hubby makes about a goodly amount an hour. I couldn't give food stamps before because I-9. I mean, if you are an independent contractor, you can make either zero that month, or you can make 5 to 10,000. That's a lot of hoops to jump through, especially on top of pulling about 10 to 12 hour stretches, which is what I was doing, while not making any money at all. So tax time is going to be interesting. He and I have only had like he worked at Denny's, and then he worked for Express Employment, and then West Sound Workforce. We've already got West Sound Workforce. So he's only had like, 2 of them temp agencies and one of them an actual place that he started at the beginning of 2019. I had only 2 jobs, one of which was a self-employed contractor. So most likely, we're going to get seriously hurt this time around when it comes to taxes, just because I was an independent contractor and therefore didn't pay any taxes, and I made approximately about $4,000, so they're really going to hurt us this year. Looking forward to that. But either way, if there is a stimulus and it does come through, the car has to be taken care of. This is not an option. It just isn't. It's not an option. So we'll be taking care of the tanks, taking care of tires, and honestly, I just want to take care of the brakes while we're at it. Just because, I mean, we do live in a hilly area, and I like having brakes. It's a thing. So we're going to be trying to take care of that, and the rest can go to her. Quite frankly, I want to get caught up too. I'm supremely grateful that they have let us slide for so very, very long. Trust me, that is not an option I want. Trust me, the option that we had, a year and some change ago, a year and literally a month and a half ago, like what happened to us, is not an option I wanted either. But, yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting caught up with her. And as I said earlier, I'm looking forward to being caught up with you guys. Look at this shit, half an hour. You see how this shit happens? Can you imagine me trying to type this shit up? It's fucking crazy. There's no way in hell. My fingers are tired just thinking about it. And this is a person whose hubby wants her to write a novel. Anyway, I am trying to get caught up with everybody. I'm hoping soon, because I've only got about maybe 4 or 5 people left, to be sending, an announcement to everybody going, I'm caught up. Like I said, if for some reason you did not get a PM from me, you did not get something indicating that I'm completely caught up with you, and I announce I'm caught up, let me know. So I can definitely catch up with you. And it's not because I ignored you, it's not because I didn't want to catch up with you, it's because most likely I honestly thought I already did. Because I've been working on this for about a month or so now. Should have started working on it earlier. I hear ya. But life is kind of crazy for us all, I think. And I cannot wait. Because the next treat after that is I get to read fan fiction. Like, I'm looking at Eve. I'm looking at Caviar. I'm looking at everybody. I get to read fan fiction. Which means, give me. When I put that post up, anything I haven't read, give it to me. Please. And let me know what your opinion is about me throwing that Harry Dresden Supernatural Lucifer crossover that doesn't really have anything to it yet out there, because, why not? I'll probably post it. I'm not really sure. Let me know if that's a bad idea, okay? I'm going to go back to catching up with you guys. I'm going to definitely double check this to make sure you can actually hear me. Though, of course, the weekend is like completely over. So if you don't have time to actually listen to this, quite frankly, I can't blame you. And if you listened all the way up to this point, Christ, I should have made some friggin' cookies. Okay? But until I go to ramble unceasingly at you again, take good care of yourselves, guys. Be safe. hand sanitizer, which was something you would never have heard from me. My dad, who was a doctor, was not a believer in hand sanitizer, just because it can negate antibiotics and negate actual, your immune system, blah, 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 blah. But at this point in time, with this pandemic, wash your hands, hand sanitizer, wear a mask, keep your distance, be safe, know you are loved, and be sure to take good care of yourselves. Take good care of each other. And know I love you, and soon I shall be annoying you up close and personal on a daily basis. Isn't that great? I knew you'd be thrilled. I love you guys. Till next time.